Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Jections, fresh off a beautiful 4-0 victory over Udinese. I've got Miko, Jay, and Irfan with me. Miko, what's going on?
Good. Yesterday the match, it was spectacular, to say the least. No issues, and our game looks so good. So yeah, feeling great.
Jay, I know it's around midnight your time, 11 p.m. your time. How are you hanging in there?
Yeah, very well, thanks. Today was quite hot, and yesterday was 43 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, like 650 or something. So it was really, a nice way to end a hot day with a great performance against Udinese. I was telling you guys in our group chat that I'm almost fearful of enjoying the moment too much. We had a fantastic game. It was enjoyable and entertaining football. Spirits are high. There was that whole thing with Pavard and Thuram after the game, which was nice to see. And then, of course, Luis Muriel gave us a fantastic early Christmas gift. And on top of that, Samandzic was pretty bad as well. So, you know what I mean? Everything was so good. It just felt, I was cautious to enjoy it too much.
The only thing that really didn't fall our way this week was the Juventus fixture result, but we can get to that later. Irfan, on the flip side, 6 a.m. your time. Good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning, gents. Doing great. Makes it a lot easier to wake up this early after such a great performance. And like Jay mentioned, Luis Muriel for the win. And too bad Napoli couldn't help us out. But as far as results go, our match, awesome. True kind of champagne football coming from Inzaghi. So it was quite a nice thing to see.
Yeah, to your point, waking up and recording this podcast at 6 a.m, fresh off a 2-1 loss to Sassuolo, just wouldn't have the same ring to it.
Definitely not.
Let's dive into it. This game was over at halftime, which is always a beautiful thing. Just truly played Udinese off the pitch from really the first minute of the game. It was just chance after chance. Started off early with Lautaro post off a header. He eventually won us the penalty that put us in front. It was pure domination. Like I said, by halftime the match was over, which was just great from a timing perspective, given how beat up the team is on injury standpoints and with how big of a fixture we have coming up on Tuesday. So, Miko, as you look at what went right in the first half, what do you think was the key to scoring 3 goals before the break?
Yeah, we had pretty good start, like you said. From the beginning, we started not pounding them, but coming after them right there, and I would say that the penalty call, which started the whole thing eventually. I want to get your guys' thoughts. What did you make of that? Because that, like I said, that started the whole thing, even though we were dominating them from the beginning. That was still kind of a episode which probably affected Udinese in a sense. So I want to get your thoughts. How you guys thought about the penalty call?
Yeah, if I was not an Inter fan, I don't know how I'd feel about it. I think there was a pretty blatant pull on Lautaro. It's just always hard to know, watching on TV, how much of it was forceful versus how much of it is the player feels contact and goes down. I'm not too upset with the call. I don't think it was egregious. I feel like I've seen softer things. Let me rephrase this. I think I've seen more egregious penalties awarded before in my life. But the way the cross was coming in, Lautaro was going to have a free run on the ball, And I think you can make an argument that by the Udinese player pulling him back, he prevented him from putting his foot to the ball and getting a shot on net. So I'm fine with it. The thing about Italian referees that bothers me is like you'll see a situation in the box where like a player blatantly pulls another player's shirt, and Italian refs normally won't call that in the box. This wasn't all that different than pulling a shirt. It was like he pulled him by the shoulder, I think. So yeah, I'm obviously as an Inter fan, I'm not too upset about the penalty decision, and I see why they rewarded it. But yeah, to your point, Miko, probably part of the reason why the floodgates opened so early.
Andrew, you said if you weren't an Inter fan, you don't know how you'd feel about it. I think if you weren't an Inter fan, you'd be really annoyed at your own defender for making that challenge. It reminded me strongly of Ashley Young giving away a penalty against Juventus. A similar situation. They hit a cross which was way over hit. The attacker was never going to reach the ball. I tried to see the replay from as many different angles as I can. He's not going to make contact with the ball, so it's needless for the defender to try and impede him, right? But he did, because I guess he didn't have a good gauge of where the ball was and whether Lautaro was going to get there, so he just kind of instinctively tugged him back, and then the ref had no choice but to give the penalty. And like I said, really similar to Ashley Young against Juventus a few years back. And the sentiment is, if it's your player, you're thinking, why would you do this? There's no risk there. In fact, Lautaro did the same thing against Bologna, right? From a corner kick, ball's coming way over his head, but the player he's marking makes a run towards the near post, and Lautaro instinctively kind of just tries to restrain him or make it a bit difficult for him, goes slightly too far in the heat of the moment, and it's a penalty. So you can't really argue against the call too much. It's a weak penalty in the fact that it's, again, there's no goal-scoring threat, so it's pointless for it to happen. A needless penalty from the Udinese perspective, but had to be given.
Yeah, let me just to cut you off, Irfan. Let me just recant my previous statement. I watched the replay of this. There was no effing way Lautaro was getting on the end of this cross. Let me just get that in there. All right, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was actually going to say that. I think that was the one thing that struck me, which was that it really didn't seem like there was an actual goal scoring threat there. Like the cross was pretty overhit. He was pretty behind it. I mean, he definitely sold the contact. There's no denying that. But there was actual contact, and I think the ref probably had in mind that given the kind of amount, because Lautaro was pretty much in a full sprint at that point, and so even a little bit of contact there can result in, really kind of offsetting somebody. So I think that was probably part of the context. I think the only thing, from a neutral perspective, that makes it seem a little ridiculous was that we've been getting like a lot of penalty calls this year. Now, I can't think of many that weren't pretty obviously deserved. But just from a sheer stats point of view, I'm pretty sure we're leading the league in penalties drawn. And I've vociferously complained about that when other teams are kind of disproportionately getting penalty calls, even if some of them might be deserved, because it just seems kind of odd. So I'm really curious, if that kind of plays into kind of the more macro analysis of whether that was a penalty or not. But, just looking at the facts kind of on the ground, I agree. It's one of those calls where there's blatant contact. It was definitely oversold. But you're kind of just shaking your head at the defender thinking, so unnecessary for you to even initiate any type of contact. It is also one of those moments where you're like, if this was, more players in motion, if this was more players static, off a penalty, off a corner kick or something, it probably never gets called. But in the run of open play, I kind of feel like that played into why it was called as well. Because on a corner kick, that kind of a pull is probably happening pretty consistently and not called. So that's another thing I think that, for others might be a little kind of infuriating to watch.
Yeah, I checked it myself as well, and I gotta admit that, yeah, no way Lautaro would have got that. During the match, when I was watching the replays, I thought that, well, we can't be sure, but yeah, I think he wouldn't have got that anyway. But as Jay mentioned about what was it? A few years ago, the Juventus match and the Bernardeschi overhit the cross, and that was like way more blatant that no one's gonna get that ball compared to this one. And yeah, I think that about the actual foul, I think that was very, very clear foul in a sense that Lautaro is running like full speed, and if you like put your hand to the shoulder and like pull even a little, that will like restrict the speed a lot. So of course he goes to the ground there. So I don't see anything wrong with calling that, but maybe that's a bit of a like a so call in a sense that if the player can't get the ball, is it like fair to call that a foul? But I guess that's the way they do there, because we saw the young Ashley Young situation a few years back and so on as an example.
One thing I will say was that Lautaro was really, really switched on. He knew that the ball was overhit and that he wasn't getting it, but as soon as he felt that tug, he went down and made a big deal about, hey, this guy's just fouled me, and this is a penalty, even though there was no like danger for the Udinese defense. But Lautaro was, I guess you can call it gamesmanship. He smartly went down there. I just want to go back to like the 9th minute of the game, where that was while Lautaro hit the post from a header. He receives the ball, directs it to DiMarco, and then essentially plays like a long 1-2 where DiMarco's cross reaches Lautaro, who heads onto the post. It was this is super impressive. The more I watch him, the more I feel like he's really, really differentiating himself in that area. I feel like he's always been a great off the ball striker, but his movement these days just seems like, what's the word I'm looking for here? It just seems kind of very visibly elite, in the same way that you see someone like Haaland and you can tell this guy's just got elite finishing. I feel the same way when you watch Lautaro just roaming and kind of marauding off the ball. And I'll finish by using the Thuram goal as an example. Actually, in that play, there's a few different movements. There's Bastoni has the ball, and then Bastoni offlays it to DiMarco on the left, who pulls it, rather than crossing it, he pulls it back for Mkhitaryan, who plays in this first time beautiful kind of looped, disguised kind of pass, right? At each point in that play, so when Bastoni has the ball, Lautaro drags the defender and shifts towards Bastoni to make himself available as like the kind of shorter option in the box. When Bastoni lays it off for DiMarco, Lautaro does the same thing. He kind of changes his positioning and makes a move towards DiMarco. When DiMarco pulls it back, Lautaro gets onside straight away and runs towards Mkhitaryan, offering like the direct vertical ball in should Mkhitaryan choose to play it. Meanwhile, Thuram's at the far post making that run, or being aware of a potential long ball to the far post, which is obviously what ended up resulting in the goal. So I just wanted to really highlight that phase in particular as a demonstration of Lautaro's movement. I think he's coming on just amazingly in that sense, and is finishing too. So, we're seeing what is hopefully the realization of a complete striker, and I'm here for the ride. I'm enjoying it.
On the third goal you're mentioning too, like by him making himself available from Mkhitaryan, it created the room necessary for them to put in the cross over the top to get to Thuram. Like if Lautaro would have stayed where he was, that cross would have been congested. There would have been two defenders in the area. By him slightly dragging himself forward, it like created the vertical room necessary to get that thing over the top. And even on the even on the second goal, which was just DeMarco side footing it into the nets, if you look, Lautaro's wide open, making a far post run, and if DeMarco would have instead chosen to put in a maybe lower cross, like it's a tap in for Lautaro. So yeah, his off-ball movement was pristine.
Yeah, he's right there, knowing that if DeMarco crosses, like you said, or if that shot gets deflected or saved by the keeper, he's right there for the tap in. So I love when players have this humility to just do these, like, dare I say, elementary, just kind of basics right. I remember like Cambiasso used to be so kind of like keen, kind of like nerdy about it. At corners, he'd always be moving in a certain way. When attacking, he'd be, creeping forward in a certain way and inching himself forward. And that's why he'd score so many of these, like, rebounds from a goalkeeper save. It's some players just kind of, like Lukaku is a prime example. It's just like, I didn't get past her. His shoulders drop and he kind of slowly walks back on side. He's not switched on. He's not ready for it. But Lautaro has always been just, he's never too good to do these little basics, correctly. And I think it's a huge part of his game.
Yeah, like impacting the match without the ball at your feet is something Lukaku would not do. If we didn't pass him the ball, he would not get involved. He never really made the connection on how aside from making runs, he never really made the connection on how his positioning, his movement impacts the play the way Lautaro has kind of figured out.
Absolutely.
Irfan, I want to get your perspective. So everyone played well in the first half. There's honestly no one we can speak ill of, but the guy I want to call out is Bisek, who had his first ever start in a league match. I think he played the whole 90 minutes, or at least he played. I can't recall if he got subbed or not, but regardless, he played, I thought, really well. We kept a clean sheet, obviously, and this was much needed with all the injuries going on in the back. We needed someone to step up, and this is kind of beginning to look like a bit of a shrewd signing. I don't know if you can find someone for $6-7 million who could, step in and play at this level. So just thoughts on Bisek's performance.
He was very impressive. I was actually going to call him out if you hadn't asked me about it, but he in the first half and in general, he looked totally comfortable. He didn't look passive at all. He was making the right tackles. He was, like megging people, moving forward, adding, like a little bit of dynamic attacking talent. You could see a little bit as well. He honestly looked a lot like what kind of prime Bastoni looks like when Bastoni switched on. Kind of moving forward and interplaying pretty well with the wing and the midfield. And yeah, it was. I mean, if you were to have never seen an Inter match and you didn't know who this guy was, watching just that match yesterday, you would have never thought that this is, kind of a gamble start by Inzaghi. Like, this is somebody who hasn't played too many matches, is fairly young and raw. A lot of what we saw yesterday didn't really seem like that at all. So, yeah, props to him and props to Inzaghi for preparing him. He looked the part. He looked really good. And he played really well. So, I take nothing away from him. That was quite a performance for a young player. Hopefully it builds a lot of confidence up. I know our kind of defensive injury crisis is kind of getting better at this point because, Bastoni's back and Pavard should be back, in the next week or so. But, what an asset to have, right? If we can kind of use him in the rotation on matches that aren't, super intense or anything like that. And we talked a little bit about it in the last match that we played against Benfica, right? That like he started off a little rocky, but in the second half of that match too, he looked pretty good. So it's clearly something's building with him. His confidence is up, and the results are showing too.
Yeah, I was pretty impressed actually with Bisek in a sense that I think it requires a lot of personality or character for a young player to play like that at Meazza, because I don't think it's too easy to play there. as a young player if you don't have like a super confidence. Since I remember last season was when Bellanova played for us, and he started maybe a few matches there. And I remember that he was a bit shaky, and it felt like it affected because the Meazza crowd, it's not too forgiving in a sense that if you, as like a new player, young player, if you do something unusual, like expected from the team, expected from Inter players, they react immediately. And I remember Bellanova doing some stuff which like immediately got the crowd's attention. And Bisek yesterday, he did a bit same kind of things in a sense that they could have gone wrong, but they didn't. He dribbled pretty nicely a few times and made some forward passes and so on. So I liked a lot also about in his performance how he had the composure and like the confidence to do these kind of things, because I think in Inter team it's very important to keep the possession, or unless you don't keep it, you like you shouldn't be trying to do like too risky things, especially as a defender. And okay, we know that the veterans, they will do risky things sometimes and they even fail, but as a young player I think it's a bit different. So they should play like the safe option usually, but Bisek like tried this less easier things, and I think he did very well. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, he had a few, I think our friend called him Bastoni-esque. He had a few runs into the box. Like, I think in the 13th minute, he put in a low cross that found DeMarco. DeMarco shot it with his right foot, so it didn't have any pace on it whatsoever. But still, he got a ball in to an attacking-ish player in a dangerous position by running into the box, which is something Pavard is capable of. It's something someone like Skriniar maybe wasn't as capable of. So it makes the team a bit more fluid and well-rounded. I don't know if there's much more to talk about from the Udinese match. Obviously, Lautaro's goal at the end of the match was fantastic. Maybe the only real surprise for me in the game was that he played the full 90 minutes. I don't know if that's a testament to Sanchez's fitness or if Lautaro just felt rested and we wanted to get him 90 minutes, but just a little surprising given we have this big game coming up on Tuesday. Any thoughts you guys have on the substitutions used? We saw Sensi, we saw Aslani, we saw Quadrado. By this point, the game was pretty much in hands, so I don't know if there was anything too noteworthy, but any thoughts there?
Yeah, I can't believe he played Sensi and not Fratesi. What's the point of playing Sensi?
I've got nothing for you on that one.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised that Inzaghi did play Lautaro the full 90 minutes. He also played Barella, I think, the full 90 minutes or close to it. And so that was also a little bit surprising. But I suspect, he has that conversation, or he has that feeling going into the match on how well rested certain players are. And probably the Benfica match helped them, get a little bit of breathing room to be able to play against Udinese. The other thing it did remind me was that I think Inzaghi, and I think we talked about this a little bit earlier in the season, Inzaghi's really tuned into the league. Like he is not really taking a lot of gambles when it comes to the league play. Even with us up, 3-0, I think he just was totally happy to not take his foot off the pedal at all and just make sure that the team sees out the result in any way possible. So I think we're going to see that a little bit from Inzaghi going forward even. He's really not going to kind of compromise on the league at all.
As for Fratesi, I saw there was on TV they showed how Inzaghi said something to Fratesi. It was pretty end of the match, maybe. I think all the subs were maybe made by that point, and I feel like he probably said something like that. You're gonna get your chance next match or something. I felt like it, like I think it was already like 4-0 or 3-0. The match was over, and putting in Fratesi, I'm not sure would that like help anyone, in a sense that Sensi is like a guy you can put in there and it's okay. The game is over. He gets some minutes, but Fratesi, to me, he feels like he's like a player who you wanna put in when you really need that tough guy there who like either keeps the result or brings the result to you. And in this kind of match, I didn't feel like I really need to see Fratesi in this match, and maybe it's some other match when we want to use him. But obviously, it probably wouldn't have hurt anyone if he played. But maybe it was just kind of some kind of I don't know. Maybe Inzaghi just wanted to give Sensi some minutes, since he's like seeing it that Sensi won't be getting minutes in the future too much. I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe
he's not even on the Champions League team sheet, right? Like he's not even available on Tuesday, so maybe you like send him out there so you can waste minutes in a game that's effectively over.
Yeah,
he's
like
that.
Sensi is the Make-A-Wish kid of Inter.
Yeah, I call it the human victory cigar. You just put him out there and smoke it when you know the game's in hand.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think Fratesi is probably one of those players who Inzaghi knows is going to get a lot of chances. And he's frankly too kind of valuable to put in when you're up 3-0 and against a team that's, like 16th or 17th in the league. Man, Udinese they're bad. Like they, I think more than anything, that was really shocking too. Like they're pretty poor.
They are.
Yeah.
And they have one win, which I'll stop there.
We were speculating last episode whether Samardzic would get whistled or not. The answer was yes. He got whistled pretty heavily when he got sent off, and the few times he did touch the ball, so we solved that question. The last thing I want to end on for this match is just checking in with our resident design experts. Jay, thoughts on Transformers kits?
I mean, it had potential, but I just think, just like many things at this club, off-pitch related especially, we just kind of did a shit job of it. Like, as we know, our jersey has these weird yellow trims, like the logos, but then like the sponsor logo is white. I don't know who is responsible for that decision, but I hope he's unemployed right now because I think it looks horrendous. We could have done something like the Transformers logo could have been in some kind of metallic, silverish, what do you even call that? Like, if you guys have seen Chelsea's shirt, for example, their badges are this, and Roma has it as well. It's like this kind of reflective material, and it looks really, just futuristic and metallic and robotic. And I think that would have been cool, for example. But also just like the logo by itself, just in the middle of the shirt, looked a little bit dumb. But it's funny to see the players coming out into the pitch and like high-fiving these Transformers, you know what I mean? Now, I was watching it going, what is this? But that was, I like that more than the shirt sponsor itself. I feel the reason I feel we didn't do a great job of it was because it felt pretty negligible at the end of the day. You know, obviously what's on the shirt doesn't matter throughout the course of the game, but every time I saw it, I was like, yeah, Transformers, like it could have been more, but yeah, let's not worry about too much. I'm sure there's plenty of other, B-grade action movie franchises that we'll adorn on our jersey throughout the season. Expendable 6 or something, you know what I mean?
I support the idea of it though, right? Of you have this corporate sponsor, they're your primary kit sponsor, so you take this beloved by someone, I'm sure, not me, movie franchise, and you try to turn it into a marketing bonanza. I saw there were actually a couple people dressed up in Transformer costumes at the game yesterday. It's being in America. I've seen these executed well. This was not executed well, but at least we're trying, I guess.
Yeah, it was a really, really modest try, but I feel like that modesty was not a choice. I feel like it was just a lack of, execution experience, lack of skill in how to deliver that kind of marketing campaign or marketing gimmick that you'd want for like an action blockbuster movie. Obviously the marketing budget for Transformers, the Inter-Udinese match was probably 0.03% of their budget, you know what I mean? If not less. But yeah, as you just kind of alluded to, it could have been somewhat. Even then, even though it represents such a small amount of effort and money from the Transformers marketing budget, it still felt somehow disappointing,
It would have been nice to see, Megan Fox in the stand wearing our kit or something, or depending on your flavor, maybe Mark Wahlberg is sitting in the crowd.
Shia LaBeouf doing the Lautaro celebration,
Yeah, or a little bit of John Turturro action, that would have been nice too. But yeah, I agree. It's it was a cool kind of gimmick, but it did kind of seem a little gimmicky rather than a concentrated marketing campaign of any sort.
Let me tell you something. If we got Megan Fox and her husband to go to an Inter game, my girlfriend would finally be interested in the sport. Okay, so before we dive into Real Sociedad, I just want you guys to reflect. So what was your favorite parts of the 3-2 Atalanta win? Was it the Muriel backheel goal? Was it the Ketelara putting it across to Lookman to tie up the game? I'm just curious, what was your favorite moment?
It was the journey. It was the emotional roller coaster, because it's funny. I didn't watch it live, so let's be real, I'm talking shit, but I watched the highlights after seeing that Atalanta had won, after seeing the score, and even though I knew the score, it's kind of like I was following along in real time. The highlights opened with Lookman delivering this cushioned header to Ketelara, who's literally 2 meters away from goal, and he just fucking skies it over the net into Rosed, and then he falls to his knees and puts his hand on his head. And like I said, even though I know Atalanta win the game at this point, you've got this feeling of, oh my fucking God, they're missing chances like this, and they're going to give our hated rivals let them off the hook. But then, of course, Lookman scored, and then Giroud and Jovic hit back and whatnot. And then that final goal, I knew that final goal was coming, and I'd read that it was a amazing goal, but I didn't know what to expect. And then to see that kind of backheel, it felt really funny for some reason. So a perfect appetizer for our game, I think.
Yeah, it was really strange. I went into our match, and I was traveling throughout the day, just doing things, and so for some reason I had completely not checked any of the scores or anything like that. And going into our match, I had no idea that this match had even occurred. So for me, it was like being a kid at Christmas opening up presents. I had no idea there's this extra present waiting for me after such a nice win for us. And then I checked the scores in the standings, and then I saw that they had lost 3-2 in the 95th minute, and I was just I was blown away. The level of excitement that I had was extremely high. So, in all honesty, it was really really fun to see that occur after such a nice win by us.
Yeah, it's like we were talking amongst ourselves before or after the game. It's like I'm worried about enjoying it too much. It feels like karma's going to come back and bite me. You know what I mean? I was just like the amount of schadenfreude joy I was feeling from seeing Man United get humiliated, Arsenal lose, Milan lose, and then us, win. It was, like I said, I was like, I should be wrong to enjoy this moment this much. But yeah, there we are. I'm maybe more vindictive than I realize.
For me, the Milan match result, it was like cool, and the Muriel goal, that was awesome, like super skillful stuff. But for me, Milan losing games like this, it's not like I don't consider them anymore. Like they are just like a nuisance to me at this point. I don't see them as true rival anymore. So they can do whatever they want. Now they decided to lose, so that's funny, but not a biggie for me.
Yeah, I guess my real takeaway from the match was, man, they would have just been run off the pitch if Scamacca was fit. Let's dive into Sociedad. Biggest Champions League match of the group stage coming up. We need a win. If we draw or lose, we're going to finish second in the group. Just to prime people for what this is going to look like. So right now, teams who are guaranteed group winners include Bayern, Arsenal, Real Madrid, and City. Teams that are guaranteed runners-up are PSV, that German team whose name I'm not even going to pretend I can pronounce, Leipzig, whatever. So basically,
that's the worst one yet.
I'm sorry, man. I just want to apologize to our listeners for letting you down on my German pronunciations.
Well, okay, anyway, go on.
Anyway, my point is, you want to win this game if you want to give yourself a favorable group stage draw or knockout round draw. If you lose this game, you draw this game, you're likely going to be facing one of the top teams in Europe. If you win, you're going to be facing someone who you're going to be favored over. So those are the stakes. In terms of recent performance, Sociedad just drew Salzburg in the last Champions League match week, much as when we drew Benfica. So we're going in, all things squared, all things even. Like I said, Sociedad have the goals differential advantage. That's why they're kind of in the driver's seat here. When we played them last time, they pressed us to death. They forced an early, I think it was Bastoni mistake that led to us conceding a goal. And then we spent 80 minutes failing to string together a pass until we kind of got bailed out at the end with a somewhat undeserved equalizer and goal. I imagine it's going to look a little different this time around, playing at home. I'd be shocked if Sociedad had come out with the same intensity and game plan in an away fixture. I just can't imagine them pressing as long, as successfully as they did last time. But you can't help but be nervous, right? I mean, this is a big one. Miko, how are you feeling going into it?
I feel pretty good. I feel confident that we are like, our game is so on top at this moment that we control the ball well. If we don't control the ball, we can still defend well and then hit the counters quite well, as we did against Napoli. And I was trying to prepare for this recording a bit by watching the Sociedad's last game against Villarreal, but I managed to watch only the first 40 minutes, and by then it was 0-0, and it didn't look like they won 0-3, but it didn't look like that's gonna be the result. it was pretty even match. They played 4-2, 3-1, but they were missing Oyarzabal in attack. I think he's, I don't know, is he a center forward or like some kind of flanked forward? I'm not sure, but I think he's one of their best players anyway. But they were missing him, but I think he's gonna be back for this match. But they're gonna miss Parenechea. He's their starting left winger. So I understood he's injured. And then Bryce Mendes, who was very good against us and has been very good now in the beginning of the season for Sociedad, he was subbed out at 30, like on half an hour in the Villarreal match because he hurt his forearm. I don't know what's the situation with that, but it looked like he might be missing the match. I think that's pretty huge for us in a sense that he's been very good. Whenever I watch Sociedad, he's been very effective and all around there in their midfield, or like he's this kind of a offensive midfielder. And I feel confident because we are missing some guys, but they are probably gonna miss few guys as well. And as you mentioned, the home match for us, this has been usually very good place for us, especially when we are like focused. Not like our only loss has been at home, but it was like more like an accident at work than anything else. So yeah, I'll feel confident that we are going to win this match, but it's not gonna be easy because they play the ball well, and they have their players are like quite fast, even with the ball on their feet, that they can like dribble with the ball even in their half and get out of the pressure and so on. So we need to be sure not to like pressure, do the pressing. We need to do the pressing smartly, in a smart way, or then just like concentrate on the defending our half and not press too much. I think that's probably what we're gonna do. But let's see.
The big difference I want to call out in this match versus the last time we played Sociedad is probably the composition of the lineup. Hakan was out injured last time we played them. I can't even remember this, to be honest, but we started Arnautovic, which tells you how much of an impact he had on that game, because I can't remember a single positive thing he did. And then DeMarco also started on the bench. So the team is, maybe with the exception of Pavard, a bit healthier, or at least going to be fielding a stronger lineup than we did last time we played them. So that's one positive for us. Jay, tell me a bit more about our struggles against Spanish sides.
I hate them. I hate them so much. I hate La Liga. There was a time I used to bet a lot on football, and I just found the style of play so boring. And yet I can't deny when they play in Europe, they just have this incredible ability to just dismantle teams that they seemingly shouldn't have any chance against. Sevilla is the prime example of that. In the Europa League, they're constantly taking bigger scalps, including ourselves. So yeah, I never enjoy playing against Spanish teams, to be honest. And Sociedad look to have a similar kind of pedigree to them. They just look really, really strong this campaign in the Champions League, and they're doing well in the Liga as well. Despite, in the table they're only fifth, but I think they've only lost 3 games so far. I think it's like 8 wins, 5 draws, and 3 losses or something. So they're doing well in their own league as well. And like I mentioned, they seem to take another step up when they when they hear that Champions League music. So this is a really big test for us. It's not so much the players that are out. That is what concerns me. It's the stakes. As you mentioned, the winner of this game gets a very favourable draw to the next round. That runners-up pool is looking pretty weak this time, or this season rather. Whereas there have been seasons where some bigger teams have not been all that great in the group stage, resulting in them finishing second unexpectedly, and next thing you know, you've got group winners and group runners-up with a mix of big names and the kind of smaller names. This season, I think it's pretty clearly divided. The big names are finishing first, and the kind of second tier names are finishing second. We want to be the big team, and we want to finish first, giving us a favourable draw for the next round. And it's also just a matter of just showing your authority, and that's something I keep calling for. That's something I keep mentioning as like a kind of indicator or a symptom of maturation and taking that next step to becoming a legitimate champion. For all we've done under Inzaghi and the last couple of years, everyone, myself included, is full of praise for basically everyone at the club, not named Steven Zhang. We've managed to stay so strong on the pitch, despite basically hacking our squad to bits every summer. Selling key players, losing key players every summer. And despite that, we've won some domestic trophies. And we got to the Champions League final. And yet, despite all this, we have not actually won the league under Inzaghi. So that's obviously the next step to really... Well, that's like the missing piece, right, in this puzzle. But I feel like some of the other pieces in the puzzle are that ability to just go toe-to-toe with a strong but slightly smaller opponent and basically show that, we're the bigger and stronger club here. Sociedad, for as well as they've been playing in this group, I hate to say this because it sounds like I'm just, being one of these like dismissive EPL fanboys who are, on Instagram commenting Farmers League kind of thing. But at the end of the day, they're quote unquote only, Real Sociedad, and we need to approach this game with, don't get me wrong, we need the right humility to work hard and to play with seriousness, but at the same time, we need to be able to say we're the bigger team, basically in every sense of the word. More budget, more much higher wage bill. We're playing some of the best football we've played in years. We've got much bigger history, obviously, and this season we have much bigger ambitions as well. We want to win the league. They are most definitely not aiming to win their league. They're probably dreaming of finishing fourth place again, you know what I mean? So the disparity between the two clubs, the ambitions, the history, everything is huge, and we need to, for all their chirpiness and how good they've been, it doesn't matter. We need to make that irrelevant is what I'm saying. We need to say, yeah, you've done well, but now it's, you've come this far and no more kind of thing.
Yeah, completely agree. It's just this is the time to assert yourself and prove you are what we think you are. Sociedad or Sociedadi are, they're like I said, they're fifth place in their table. This isn't Real Madrid. This isn't Barcelona. This is a team you're favored against. And the tough thing about being Inter is that you're going to be favored in almost every game you play, bar a handful each season. And we had the chance to do something special here. When was the last time we just sailed through a group stage? This would be 4 wins, 2 draws through a group stage. That would be. I honestly can't remember. Even in Mourinho's years, we limped through the group stage. It felt like, and we're lucky to squeak by. So this is uncharted territory. I just want to see us take it for once. The other thought I had, and this isn't necessarily about that match, but just when was the last time we went head to head with Europe's best and delivered the knockout blow? Like, even in last year's competition, we played some Portuguese sides. We played Milan, who we all agree were kind of lucky to be there. Sociedad aren't European royalty or European elites, but it would just be so great to see us just like finally take a team from what is probably the best league in the world, if I can say that, and just be the one who crushes their hopes and spirits. I just want to see it.
Yeah, like a champion beats who they're supposed to beat and gives a good fight against other, opponents of equal stature. Again, not to rely too heavily on like the fighting analogies, but it really is a matter of small details. So, if you fight 10 fights, you might win 6, lose 4. And that's fine, to be honest. If your opponent is on the same level as you, but you should be winning every fight against lower ranked opponents. Again, I know it's not the same thing, obviously, between football and fighting, but let's beat the guys who we're supposed to. We did that last season: Porto, Benfica, Milan, etc. And we almost punched above our weight to beat Man City. And so, hopefully, if we can continue that trend, hopefully we can give a really good game to some of these teams. Let's say we come up against we're guaranteed to go through the group anyway, but assuming, or let's say hypothetically, we draw like a Real Madrid or a Bayern Munich or something, we have to give them a better game than we have in previous years. And should starting with Sociedad, let's beat them because we're supposed to. And should we draw a smaller team in the round of 16, we should beat them too. And I want to see this kind of thing because, again, these are the indicators of a team that's really that's a championship level.
Yeah, it was well said about the stamping the authority, and I feel like maybe this situation we have that we need to win, it could be even like better mentality wise for the team, that they need to go for the win now. The draw won't be enough, so it will be like they know what's at stake and so on. So I feel it might be better this way. But I wanna discuss more about this lineup we're gonna have, because I realized that what's gonna be our right flank, how it's gonna look like. Do you have any thoughts, guys?
Pretty happy to go the same guys who played yesterday, Bisek and Darmian. I don't think Cuadrado's fit to start yet, and to be honest, even if he was, I don't really trust him to start. I like what I'm seeing from Cuadrado when he's coming off the bench, and even then sometimes, like, what was that game? I think it was Benfica where he came off the bench and he was complete trash. He just tried too much. There are games where he comes off the bench and he tries things and it works, and then, what was the game he delivered an assist to Lautaro like quite recently? But yeah, so to his credit, he tries things all the time, but it doesn't always come off. And in the, on the days where it doesn't work, he can actually be a bit of a detriment because he's just, constantly trying and constantly failing. So even if Cuadrado was fit, I wouldn't start him, to be honest. So Dumfries doesn't seem to be back yet, as far as I know. I haven't heard anything about him. So I'm happy. I'm perfectly happy to play the same two from yesterday. Bisek with Darmian in front of him.
Yeah, same here. I think that makes a lot of sense given the personnel. Going back to one quick point that you all were making about this match. Couldn't agree more. I think one of the things is, we can't downplay the significance of it. Like, yes, we've already qualified, but I think one thing you're not going to hear from us whenever we record next is, in one way or another, that this wasn't a huge match, right? Like, oh, we're still okay. We drew or we lost. It's okay. It's a huge match. It's the implications for us, especially, are really important. So I think in that sense, Inzaghi is going to bring it. The other thing is, in the context, he's so good at preparing the team for cup matches, for like cup ties and all this other sort of stuff. There really is something to that, I think, and I think we're going to come out ready. Had we not had the experience that we did the first time we played them, I'd be a lot more nervous. But I think we're going to come in ready and expecting them to kind of put their best foot forward as well. And so I think we'll be ready. Being at home also, I think, will be huge. One thing we didn't talk about when we were talking about the Udinese match was just how much better DeMarco seems to play when he's at the San Siro. I think he really just gets excited and just is a lot more switched on. And going back to the fact that when we last played them, DeMarco wasn't playing and Hakan wasn't playing. I think going with our kind of full squad, even though we have that issue on the right side with Bisek and Darmian, I think is going to put us in a much stronger position. So, yeah, on the right side, I think, you go with Bisek again, definitely Darmian at right wing back. And then I think you just kind of bring it to them. We need to be ready, and we need to assert ourselves from the very beginning. We can't concede first. And as long as we do that, as long as we play our match, I think we'll be able to get a really good result. And look forward to getting hopefully another favorable draw going forward in the Champions League.
There's this. Go ahead, Miko.
Yeah, I was about to mention Bastoni, that it was so refreshing to see him back, because the difference between him and Acerbi on that left center back position is massive. Like we talked about Acerbi before in that position, and man, Bastoni is so much more like fluid, and it looks so much better when he's there. And I'm really happy that he's back now. And he was even like, he was subbed out yesterday just for the probably for preparation for the Sociedad match. He's been out 3 weeks now. So but yeah, it was great to see him on the left flank, and I think it will help DiMarco's game as well.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. I feel like no one was happier to see Bastoni back in his position than DiMarco.
The only point I wanted to make on Sociedad was, I think the kind of middle tier of Spanish teams, maybe outside of Sevilla, all play this similar style where there's lots of passing. There's this emphasis on trying to control the ball. And really that's what Sociedad did to us in the first half of the game we drew. It felt like they were the ones asserting themselves. They were the one trying to turn the screw. But there's always this lack of final product with these teams. There hasn't been an elite crop of Spanish strikers in 10, 15 years now, since the Villa era. And as a result, if you play these Spanish teams and you don't make mistakes, I think you can keep a clean sheet pretty easily, because they just aren't great at being lethal around the net. Like, Sociedad don't have a player like Lautaro who's a killer in the box, who you're afraid of them getting the ball in a dangerous spots. It's not nearly as lethal of a team. So the one thing that scares me about starting Bisek, someone with less experience, is that I feel like the only way Sociedad score a goal in this match is an individual error through us. I just can't. I don't think they're going to have much success breaking us down if we play. If Pavar was here and we were playing our A game defensively.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. one of the things that is interesting is as much as they dominated us in that first match, it really was a Bastoni mistake. Let's not rewrite history and put it on Asllani or anything. It really was a Bastoni mistake that ended up, resulting in their goal. And absent that, even though they played really well, like you said, Andrew, like they didn't end up scoring otherwise. And so I think it's one of those situations where you're right. Like we just have to play our game. And one of the other things I think as Inter fans that we can sometimes downplay a little bit is probably how intimidating it is for other teams to come to the San Siro and play us. I do think, in the league, I feel like the teams, play us every year. So even smaller teams are probably a little bit more used to playing at the San Siro. But when it comes to like some of these European teams, I'm sure it's a little intimidating when they come and they play at probably one of the best stadiums, in the world. So I think that'll play into our benefit. I'm sure there'll be a little bit of awe coming from Real Sociedad, but I agree. Like they, as good as they are pressing and just being like a nuisance and being like a really annoying team, they're not the kind of team that typically has the type of like individual forward skill to, make something out of nothing. They're good at capitalizing on mistakes, but they're not going to do much more than that, hopefully. So unfortunately, though, I don't know who else we can really play in that position other than Bisek. So I think right now you're probably going to see him start, because if you put Darmian there, then the problem is you'd have to put Cuadrado for 90 minutes on that other side as wingback, and I think that's going to be a bridge too far for Inzaghi, probably.
All right, let's quickly dive into Lazio for the sake of moving things along. We play Lazio next weekends. We have not played well against Lazio under Inzaghi. I don't know if it's like a former manager playing his former team curse thing going on, but especially at the Olimpico, we've struggled against Lazio. I'm sure all of you remember fondly last year's beatdown where somehow we allowed Felipe Anderson, Luis Alberto, and Pedro to score. Just truly the trifecta of players who I feel like never play well unless it's against us. It's this form of Lazio has not played very well. Immobile is not scoring goals at the clip he used to score goals. The other attacking players in the squad really have just gotten older and less effective. Like this Lazio team just feels like it's kind of at the end of the cycle and needs a refresh. The real danger man, or the player I'm most fond of in their team right now is probably Zaccagni, who is their left winger. I think he's a former Verona player maybe, and I think he's a good attacker, and he's someone who I have a lot of respect for. Felipe Anderson always plays well against us. I assume he's going to be the starting right winger. So I don't know. I'm scared because Inzaghi has looked so poor against Lazio as manager of Inter. For whatever reason, he just hasn't been able to get over this hurdle. I think he has 2 losses to them at the Olimpico in 2 seasons here, with this third match coming up here also at the Olimpico. It's been a struggle. Jay, thoughts on why Inzaghi just can't seem to beat Lazio back in Rome?
Still in love with him, probably. No, to your point, it's been just back and forth since Inzaghi came to the club. Since he has become manager of Inter, actually. No, that's not true. That is right. We've just traded results. We beat them 3-1, then they beat us 3-1. We beat them 2-1, then they beat us 3-1. So, and these are all, the home team is always the victor. So, if tradition is to be upheld, then we're going to lose 3-1. But as you said, this is not the same Lazio as even last year. They lost their best player in Milinkovic-Savic. They're relying heavily on Luis Alberto, and what feels like the death rattle of players like Pedro, Immobile, and to his credit, Felipe Inzaghi is keeping it together fairly well. Zaccagni's doing what he can, but yeah, I don't think any of these guys are, I don't think any of these guys are able to play at the level of that Alberto, Immobile, SMS kind of trio at their best. You know what I'm saying, right? Lazio ninth or something. Yesterday they were in the league.
Yeah, they're ninth place, and they also have a do or die Champions League game midweek, I believe.
No. They're qualified. They're qualified.
Aren't they still fighting to win? But it's like they're fighting to win the group, right? Like they need to win the group.
Yeah, something like that. But I mean, realistically, realistically, it's pretty hard for them to win the group anyway. They're going away to Atletico Madrid, so you're right. There's only 1 point difference, but going away to Simeone's Atletico Madrid side is going to be difficult. But they have already qualified. Sorry. So they're doing well in the continent. Providel scoring that winner or that equalizer was fantastic.
Wow. Yeah.
But yeah, what can I say? In the league, they have been nothing but a disappointment. 9th place in the league. They keep just dropping points against these teams that they really should be beating. Like yesterday against Verona, they were 1-0 up, and then they dropped points. They're barely scoring. They barely beat Genoa in the Coppa Italia midweek, and they barely beat Cagliari, who were 20th place or 19th place the week before. So, and then the week before that, they lost to Salernitana 2-1. So they're not scoring goals. If I go through their last couple of results, it's like 1-1, 1-0, 1-0, 2-0 win, 2-1 loss, 0-0 draw, 1-0 win, 1-0 loss, 1-0 win. So like they're not scoring at a rate of more than a goal per game in the last 10 games. They've signed that guy, his name's like Castellanos or something, but he wears Castellanos, and he has the nickname Chachi or something on his shirt number. But that guy has not really been, he hasn't taken the mantle from Immobile particularly convincingly, and this Immobile is just shocking. Like I was convinced last season was, he's on a pretty steep decline, but I've never been more convinced watching him play this season. He looks like he's just completely finished. Like, we used to joke that Dzeko was finished, but, if Dzeko was finished, then this Immobile should be retired. He's so far gone. He looks completely unfit. He looks like he's lost that sharpness. Even like his technique and his finishing, his composure seems to have just completely gone out the window. I think he's only scored 1 or 2 goals this season, maybe we'll say 2, 3, 4 kind of thing.
Yeah, he has 4 goals, and I just want to add he's openly speculating about moving to Saudi Arabia in January.
Exactly. So even he knows he's kind of that indicates to me that even he's feeling it. He's feeling I can't do it at this level anymore, and you know what? Honestly, credit to him for acknowledging that sooner than most do. But yeah, he's not looked good this season. They have not looked good this season. And this is, I promise I'll stop comparing everything to the Juventus match like I did Napoli and now this one. But forget the history of the fixture. Forget the fact that Inzaghi has struggled at Lazio. Forget that we've struggled at the Olimpico. The opportunity is there. We normally struggle against Lazio because Lazio are normally good. This time they are not good. They are terrible. They're dropping points like crazy. They're giving them away for free. Correspondingly, we are doing fantastically. So history we need to just say, fuck off. We don't care about history. We don't care about previous results or that it's a tough ground historically, any of that. We just need to take the opponent for what they are, which is an underperforming team full of aging players who are not clicking and failing to score, and just go in there and dismantle them. That's it. No excuses.
Why this like blatant, unprovoked attack on Dzeko, Miko? I know you have something to say about that.
Yeah, that was pretty gross. But yeah, but Immobile has actually 3 Champions League goals as well. See, he like secured the qualification in the against Celtic, so there's that. But yeah, he hasn't been great. For me, I think this match, I would like to like call for a trap game for Inter because we have the Champions League match and so on. But the thing is that Lazio has the Champions League match as well, and it's like a 1 day later, and it's an away game for them, so the traveling and everything. So maybe we can see from the starting lineup of that Atletico Madrid match how serious they're gonna take that match. If they have like Luis Alberto and the first team guys there, then I think that we should absolutely. I mean that of course we should beat Lazio. They've been terrible, like you guys have mentioned. But if they like take the Atletico match seriously, there's no way we shouldn't beat them. And I don't see any trap game coming for us next Sunday. But if they are going with the like a bench players against Atletico, then the focus is for the Inter match, and then it's a bit different because for us the Champions League match is the game for this week, and then I could see like some kind of a blowout for us then, as I think we haven't been like super great after these midweek matches. But as said, Lazio has that as well. But if they focus mostly on the Inter match this week, then it might give us some problems. But even still, it's more likely we will win the match. I think. I don't see the history side in this one because they, as Jay mentioned, they lost the best player and so on, and they haven't been great this season. So
yeah. I don't have much to add to that, Miko. I think all of what you all said makes a lot of sense. I hate Lazio. I hate playing them because I just immediately feel uncomfortable. And I never think that their players are really that good. I hate their players. It's an annoying nuisance of a match for me whenever we play them. I just can't think of a fixture that I generally dislike more than us playing Lazio. And this was even before kind of Inzaghi's time. They're just always this like really annoying kind of team to play. Also because they're also one of those teams that will disproportionately play well against us than they will against our rivals. And it just makes me extremely frustrated when teams do that. So I don't really have much to add. I don't think it should be a trap game, like you mentioned. I think we're pretty switched on, and they're playing in the midweek as well. So, unless we come off of some like really nice high win against Sociedad, like we just crushed them or something, and then we have this like massive emotional letdown going into the match against Lazio, I don't think we're going to have too much trouble. We should dispatch them pretty well.
I'll say one thing. Matthias Vecino.
Hey, this is the first time in forever we don't have to watch Inzaghi trot out Juan Roberto Gallardini under the guise of trying to man-mark SMS. So we have that going for us. Miko, I was cracking up over here because you were talking about Lazio maybe not playing their best lineup against Atletico. I saw Lazio drew Verona this weekend. I think it was a 10-man Verona. And I was like, obviously Lazio didn't roll out their full-strength starting 11 to prepare for this Atletico Champions League fixture. And you check the lineup, and nope, that was pretty much Lazio's full-length team that went and drew one of the 5 worst sides in Seriea. So
there you go.
I can't tell you what their plan is. I can just tell you we need to win. All right, let's put a wrap on this, I guess we'll do double predictions for Sociedad and Lazio. Irfan, what do you got for me?
Oh, man. Against Sociedad, I'm going with a 2-0 Inter win. I think it'll be a little cagey, but I think we'll come out winners. I'm going to give the goals to Lautaro, and I'm going to give another goal to Barella. I'm going to go Lautaro, Barella, 2-0 against Sociedad. Lazio, just an annoying piece of crap, 1-0 win, or I guess 0-1, Miko, win against Lazio. And I'll go with a cheeky Thuram goal for that one.
Miko?
I'm gonna go with 3-1 against Sociedad. I think it's gonna be a tough match, but it will be a draw at some point. But we get the goals we need, and we have a good match. And then as for the Lazio, I think it's 0-2. We have a basic performance. Lazio is not in a good shape at this moment, so 0-2 and goals. Well, as for Sociedad goals, I'll go with Lautaro, Thuram, and Mkhitaryan. And then for the Lazio, it's gonna be Lautaro again, and then Çalhanoğlu. Probably a penalty.
Jake?
I think we beat Sociedad 1-0. Çalhanoğlu scores. I think we get destroyed in the game, but we'll hold on for a 1-0 win with a Çalhanoğlu penalty. Lazio, I'm going to want Lazio. We have 1 goal to Thuram and 2 goals to Luis Alberto. You know, what's Christmas without Inter drama? You know what I mean? So
this fucking guy.
Yeah, Inter loves to give us some Christmas gifts every now and again. So yeah, looking forward to this one.
I think we beat Sociedad. I'm also going 1-0, just because Sociedad have a need and probably a path to playing for a draw. They only need 1 point, right? So I could see them trying to absorb some more pressure and maybe taking less initiative. So I think it's going to be us trying to break them down for the majority of the game. We will get home. I'll take a DeMarco goal. Yeah, I'm predicting a loss against Lazio. Inzaghi's track record. 2 is every time I watch Felipe Anderson play against us, he scores. And 3 is because one of my true just core memories of an Inter fan is a December fixture against Lazio where Felipe Melo decided to scissor kick somebody in the head.
Exactly.
Do you remember which player that was? Was that like Billa or whatever his name is?
I think you might be right. I think it might have been Lucas Biglia.
Yeah, future Milan fan. Anyway, yeah, so I'm predicting a 3-1, 3-2 loss to Lazio, where the floodgates open, because this is just what happens in December against Lazio. All right, well, on that optimistic note, let's go ahead and wrap this up. We'll be back next week breaking down both these games. We'll also preview the Champions League draw and let you know who we want, who we don't want, based on whether or not we're in kind of the winners tier or the runners-up tier. So thanks for listening, everyone. Appreciate it, and see you all next week.
Catch you later. Thanks.
Yep. Thanks all.
Thank you.